Well, happy Tuesday. I hope you all are doing well. We are now in continuing the story in Genesis with Jacob and Esau, and we will see what happens to Jacob at the end of this. But one of the things that's really interesting about our selection of reading today is we're going to look at two of the major versions of covenants that we find in the Bible. Hi, I'm Pastor Mark with Heights Christian Church, and we are going through the Bible in 5 years again, and we are in the book of Genesis right now, and we will get through all of them in a 5-year time. So we invite you to subscribe to this channel on a daily basis. You get a notification, and you can read the Bible with us, and in 5 years, you'll have read through the entire Bible. And can I tell you, that will help you to focus on the things of God and to focus on things in your life. God knows what He's doing when He created man. When we mess up is when we don't do it the way God wants us to. Then we usually end up paying a high price, or not the price that He intended for us anyway. All right, well, let's dive right into this, and let's read Genesis, starting in verse 41 of chapter 27, and go on to 28-22. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah was told what her older brother Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living." So Isaac, chapter 28, so Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Then he commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Aram, to the house of your mother's father, Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May He give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way. He went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and then he blessed him, and he commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite woman." And that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and had gone to Padan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. The descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north, to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offering. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. Okay, wow, there's lots to be said. I mean, you could probably come up with about 4 or 5 sermons just in this reading today. You could talk about, Esau holding a grudge and how that's probably not a good idea. It'll make you do some crazy things. And of course, the old adage, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting another person to die. We could talk at length about that. Or we could talk about this stairway that goes with the angels ascending and descending and into heaven. We could talk about the earth here, but that we were made to be in heaven, and to be with God all the time. We could talk all about that. But I'd like to talk a little bit about, this is the time when God reveals himself to Jacob. He renews the covenant that he had made previously with his grandfather Abraham and with his father Isaac. He now has been given the covenant with which God had made with his grandfather, and he renews it with Jacob. Now there are 2 types of basic covenants that we see in the Bible. There is an unconditional covenant, and then there's a conditional covenant. And the Abraham covenant is an unconditional one. Remember when Abraham is there and God makes a covenant with Abraham? God's the only one that walks in between the animals that have been flayed. He is the one that walks through it. He's the one that sets, and it's unconditional. No matter what Abraham does, God is going to honor this covenant. Excuse me. And there's 3 separate parts of this covenant that God made with Abraham. 1, he promised him land, and God reveals that to Jacob. This land that you're on right now is going to be yours and your ancestors. The second one is a promise that he's going to have many descendants, that are going to be as much as sand on the seashore. So he is talking to Jacob and renewing that part that there's going to be a bunch of them. And actually, Jacob does his best to have a lot of sons, and starts the whole thing of a lot of children. So he's the one that's most prolific. Remember Abraham, he had Ishmael, but he was not the child of promise. And it was through Isaac. It was just the one child. Abraham later had more kids, but Isaac was the one. And then Isaac has 2, Jacob and Esau. And then Jacob has however many we have here, the 12 tribes of Israel. He changed his name. And then the third part is the idea that from the offspring of Abraham, that through them there was going to be a promise of being blessed and being a blessing to all the nations, and a time of redemption. And obviously that is completed in that line with Jesus being the blessing to all nations. So we see that. But then it's funny because after Jacob goes, oh my gosh, this must be where God resides, or must be the place where God is, and changes the name of the area where he was laying his head to Luz, from Luz to Bethel, the house of God. Bethel means house of God. Jacob makes this conditional not unconditional, but a conditional covenant. He says, if God will be with me and will watch over me in this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, then that means God will be my God. The Lord will be my God. So basically what Jacob's doing, this is a conditional covenant that Jacob makes. Hey, if you provide for me, if you keep me safe, if I've got clothes to wear, then you'll be my God. Isn't that funny how we see in man's way, Jacob saying, there's a condition here. You'll be my God if. And where God, when it comes to Abraham, he said, you know what? I am going to make you a great nation, and I'm going to give you land, and I'm going to cause your descendants to be a blessing to the whole world. And that's unconditional. And I just think that's really interesting. We tend to live by conditions. You know, we try very hard in our marriages. And we try to say, we kind of think of it as a conditional. You know, if you make me happy or if you treat me good, then you can be my husband. You can be my wife. You know, we need to be more like God, and we need to be unconditional. We need to decide what we're going to do and just say we're going to do it, regardless of the circumstances. And that's usually the best way, is unconditional. But it doesn't matter, because we have a new covenant in Jesus, and it's an unconditional. We have been given freedom to have a relationship with God because of what Jesus did. It's what Jesus did. It's not what we did. All we have to do is accept it. If we accept the free gift of salvation, then we will achieve the blessing of being in a relationship with God forever. Wow. Now, if that isn't good news, I don't know what is. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will look forward to continue reading Genesis with you this week tomorrow.